Okay, and so we'll get the show on the road. Thank you all for coming to our meeting online here this evening. So good evening and welcome. Thanks so much for joining us for what I know will be a very interesting and informative presentation to anybody who's involved in birding. My name is Pat Phillips, and I'm a board member of the Green Mountain Audubon Society, which is a chapter of Audubon, Vermont. And we cover Chittenden, Grand Isle, and Franklin counties. If you received the Audubon magazine and live in one of those three counties, you're a member of Green Mountain Audubon, whether you know it or not. And so thank you for being a member. If you're interested in joining, please just go to our website, Green Mountain Audubon Society, and you just put that in the search engine, and you can get to the website and become a member. This program is offered to our members and the general public as part of our ongoing work to raise awareness regarding environmental issues. If you wish to support our programs and our mission to protect birds through community involvement, education, and conservation efforts, please consider visiting our website to make a donation. And many thanks to those of you who already made donations, whether it's to Green Mountain Audubon Society or to other Audubon groups in that effort. This evening, our program will be hosted by my fellow board member and outstanding birder and friend, Tom Giammichello. So without further ado, you don't want to hear me talk. I'm going to turn the program over to Tom. Take it away, Tom.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks again for coming in and for an informative and educational presentation by the one, the only Bridget Butler, aka Bird Diva Bridget Butler. Here's a little bit of background. So some of you, I expect that many of you know her personally. So she is very involved and has been since working for Audubon in other years. She oversees the Birder Broker Project, fascinating, where you are documenting breeding birds on public landowner lands with the help of birders and landowners. She serves on the Vermont Birds Records Committee and is on our board, the Green Mountain Audubon chapter. Bridget is ready to roll. This is one of the first times that we are going to be concentrating on technology. And we have two programs. We have the program tonight that's going to be talking about Merlin, and then we'll talk at the end of the program about the next program. So without any further ado, I'm passing it over to our board member, the one, the only Bird Diva, Mrs. Bridget Butler. Go, girl.
Oh, Tom, thank you so much. Thanks, Pat. It's really great to be here with all of you tonight. Hi, everybody. It's so great to have you here. Thank you. I'm really grateful that you've chose this evening to come and hang out with us at the Green Mountain Audubon Society and learn a little bit about some of the cool technology that we can use to deepen our connection with birds. So tonight I'm going to be sharing with you the app called Merlin, and I'm sure many of you have already been using this, and hopefully you'll pick up on some other tips and tricks here. And for those of you who haven't, this is going to be a great way to get introduced to this free app that you can use while you're out and about as we head into migration. So a couple things I'm going to suggest to you for you to consider tonight is keep that chat box open. Tom is going to be overseeing that so that we can take your questions as we go. I'm going to do my best to pause as we go through things and ask you if you have questions, and Tom's going to help keep track of those and read those for me. You may also want to have your phone with you. So if you already have the app downloaded on your phone, you might want to open it right now. You're not going to need it right away, but we are going to be going through a bunch of the different features on the app. And as far as I know, this is going to be recorded, and we'll put it up on the Green Mountain Audubon YouTube page. I'm pretty sure, Tom, Pat, you can, yeah, okay, good. And so it's something that you can come back to later on or share with others who maybe couldn't make it tonight. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I want to share my screen to show you the website where you can pick up the app from online, and also gives you a whole bunch of different background on the app. So Merlin was created by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology in 2014. So what is that? That's like 7, 8 years. And what I love about a lot of Cornell's work is they're always responding to the needs of their users. And so what they've been able to do is continuously update the app over the years to respond to what birders are feeling like they need out of an online resource like this. So this is the Merlin page. I'm going to, let's just do this really quick, and I will, let's see if I can drop. It's pretty easy. If you Google Cornell and Merlin, it will come up pretty easily for you, but there's the link directly in the chat if you want to hold on to that and keep that. So this is the site where you can go and you can kind of get the backstory on Merlin. You can also download it. You see here, you've got the Apple App Store and Google Play here. They have a number of different kind of tutorials that you can go through as well. So if you'd like another perspective other than mine on how to kind of navigate the app, you can use this and go back to it as well. And you can see it's really polished and it's nice and the interface is really great. We're going to go through it in just a minute. And what I think about technology, a lot of people are like, oh, I can remember when some of these apps first came out and everybody was like, well, this isn't the same as what we've been doing, right? We've always used books. We've always done it this way, right? Change can sometimes be really hard. And sometimes tech isn't always super great in the field. Maybe it kind of intrudes upon the way that we connect. But really, it's really about what's going to help you connect with birds. And so if you like to embrace technology, that's great. That's perfectly fine. It's great to bird that way. If you don't like technology and you're still analog and you dig your field guide, that's great too. All of those resources are really valuable and each of us birds in a very different way, and all of that is okay. All right, so let's just check out a couple of things on the website here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift to the app itself, and I'm going to share navigating that with all of you. So if we look at the menu across the top here, the backstory is here about how Merlin came to be. There's also a section here that goes a little bit deeper into the sound ID, which we will go through together tonight. There is the help feature, which is really awesome, right? So if you have questions, you're wondering about different ways that you can use it, you're wondering about why you're getting certain messages that aren't working, things that you need updated, this is the place that you can come through your computer browser to get some of that information and kind of better understand how to use the app and what might be not working for you. So for example, here, there's this new support ticket. So if you are having troubles, you can report those troubles to Cornell and they will get back to you and help you out. There's a search bar here as well. So if you can type a few keywords in there about what you're interested in learning more about in terms of using the app, that can be really helpful as well. So a really great help center. We'll go back to the home screen. Let's see if I can get back there. I'll try not to click too fast so that this doesn't become dizzying. All right. And then there's the download button, which is going to help you figure out what kind of operating system you need on your iPhone or your Android in order to download the app. And of course, you can go to your app store on your phone. And if you type in Merlin and Cornell, this will come up for you.
And Bridget,
Right.
I'm gonna jump in, and one of the things I want people to know that you haven't mentioned yet, and this is one of the ways that birding is being expanded throughout the world, is that this app is free.
Yeah, it is free and it's global too. So that's a really good point. So free and global, and it's based on community contributions too, which we'll talk about in just a minute when it comes to identifying birds. Thanks, Tom. Okay. So we are going to shift here from the website. I'm going to stop sharing, and you can see that there's another window that says Bridget Butler in it, and that's my phone. And so we're going to go to that now. So at this point, if you do have the app and you would like to follow along, you can do that. If that's not a way that you're comfortable learning and you just want to watch first as we go through, that will work as well. It's totally up to you. And like I said, please feel free to put questions in the chat as we go. So if you give me a minute or two here, I'm going to switch over to sharing my screen. Pardon me for looking down because I'm looking at my phone. And we're going to start casting from my screen. I'm going to turn audio on because we want to make sure that we're going to be able to hear some of the things that will happen as we're using this app. So this is what my phone looks like. This is what happens when I open my phone. So you can see the apps that I like to use often right across the top. So I use eBird. That's going to be the next session next week, I'm pretty sure. Same night, same time. We'll be talking about eBird, the eBird app. Here's my Merlin app, and then I have Warbler Guide. That's another great app that's based on the Warbler ID guide by Tom Stephenson, and I forget the other author. Maybe somebody can put that in the chat if they remember it off the top of their head. And then Sibley. So I have the Sibley Birds app as well. Those are the 4 that I use the most when I'm out in the field. But today we're going to talk about Merlin. So we're going to tap on the little sapsucker there. And this is the home, the landing page for the app when you open it up. And Merlin has really come a long way. So when it first started out, it was kind of start bird ID and explore birds. And then they added the photo feature after that, pretty soon after the app launched. And then within, I think it was just last year or the year before that they added the sound ID. So I think this will be my second spring using the sound ID feature. And there were a lot of different some of you may have used BirdNet, which was another sound identification app that came out of Cornell as well. And I think playing around with that app, they were able to discover how they could create something that could slide really well into the Merlin app that's really user-friendly for folks of all different birding abilities. So the big thing that I love about the Merlin app is that I really think it's making birding more accessible to a wider audience of people, especially when it comes to sound ID. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to save the best for last. I'm not doing sound ID until the end. So you're going to have to wait that out, even though it comes third. So we're going to start by kind of cruising around this screen. And then we're going to go to, we're going to go to explore birds. Then we'll talk about photo ID. We'll use the bird ID together, and then we'll wrap up with playing around with the sound ID. So the first thing I want to draw your attention to is in the upper left corner, there's that set of 3 bars. That's a little menu drop down. And I'm going to tap that right now so you can see what that looks like. My handle on eBird and on Merlin is Green Mountain Girl. So that's what you're seeing at the top there. That's my eBird account, right? And so you can sync your eBird account with your Merlin app, which I'll show you in just a minute. So we're going to kind of slide way down this list. So if you are new to Merlin, one of the first things that I suggest that you do is you go all the way down to that little flying bird, and it says bird packs. So what you want to do when you get Merlin is you want to upload a couple of bird packs that are particular to where you live. And so we'll take a look at the ones that I have installed. And this one is on the all feature right now. So I'm going to go over to the left and hit installed. We've got that nice grayed menu bar across the top under the words bird packs. So the 3 that I have installed are US and Canada Continental, US and Canada, the expansion pack, and US Northeast. And basically what this is, it's like the encyclopedia and all the pictures and the background and all of that. It's basically helping Merlin understand which birds you want to focus on. Now, if you're really new to using Merlin and this is your first time downloading it, you can go to the recommended section here, and it'll tell you which ones are best based on your location, right? Because our phones do that for us. They talk to the apps and tell us where our location is, especially with apps like Merlin and eBird. And so here they've recommended US Northeast and US Canada and Continental. And I have both of those. It takes a little bit of time to install them, so you want to make sure you give yourself time to do that. And that anticipation of being able to use it right away. Make sure if you're new to using Merlin that you do it before you go out and you're wanting to use it right away, or before that bird is singing in your backyard and you're like, oh yeah, I need to use Merlin, because you want to give it time to be able to download all this information. I keep grabbing my mouse, but I have to remember I need to use my phone to navigate. So, okay, and then there's the all feature. Some of you may like to travel and maybe going on adventures birding in other places. Like I said earlier, this is a global app now, and it's getting better. So some places the data isn't so rich because the data comes from the community and from Cornell about all of the different birds. And so the richness of the data from different areas makes the app more effective and more accurate. So we have all of these different countries, and now I'm going to do a little fast scroll. So, here, I saw someone in the airport yesterday when I was heading out to Pittsburgh who was going to Ecuador. So they could have downloaded a bird pack for Ecuador, so they would have basically a field guide in their hand of birds of Ecuador or the Galapagos, right? So this is another really great feature. So if you're traveling someplace different, you don't necessarily have to go and buy a field guide. Some of us do like field guides that we can hold in our hands and turn the pages, but eBird or Merlin is free, and so you have this opportunity to have a digital field guide in hand in this way. All right, I'm going to go back up to the top here. So bird packs, that's the first step, okay? And you get your bird packs installed and you'll be all set to go. The next thing that I would suggest you do, and I just tapped, I'm going to do that again so you see. So I just tapped those three little bars in the upper left corner to get back to this little kind of side drop down menu. It doesn't drop down, it drops over, something like that. I would go to settings next, is probably another great thing to do. And here we can look at how we want bird names to show up. We can look at the language that we want. We can play around with different sound features that may be linked in our phone. And then we can talk about how to save our sighting. So if I tap on this way at the bottom there, you can do two things. You can either have your sightings when you're using eBird and you're saving the birds, or sorry, Merlin, when you're using Merlin and you're saving the birds that you've seen, you can either save it to the Merlin app, or you can save it to eBird and it will create a checklist for you. And I'm going to show you how to link your accounts in just a second, okay? So there are two different, yep.
Bridget, I'm gonna pop in only because we have a question which it's kind of more related to Zoom, and you can decide if you want to handle it or punt. But one of the attendees says, how do you get your phone screen to show on Zoom?
Yeah, basically I have a separate email account, another email account that I use for this. So I sign into the Zoom session through this other account. And then I become a participant. The features are set so that we can share screens, and I hit share screen. There's a couple of other things you got to tap. If you want me to talk you through that, feel free to send me an email at birddiva@gmail.com. And I can talk you through that in a little bit more detail. It's really fun. It's a great way to share how to use different apps, and I've used it in a lot of different occasions. Good question. It's kind of cool, right? Okay, so you can decide. We were talking about whether you want your bird sightings shared in Merlin or whether you want them shared to eBird. I have them shared to Merlin because I don't tend to keep track of what I'm noticing with my Merlin app. I use my eBird app to do that I have two different ways that I use them. So they're separate. So I keep them separate. Some of you might want to use it in a different way. And there's that feature so that when you notice different birds and you go through an identification process, you can actually create an eBird report through Merlin. Okay. Okay, I'm seeing some direct messages here. I'm going to encourage folks to put the messages in the full chat, okay? But I'm going to answer these two. So Sandy Murphy says, it appears your app is updated. I didn't have a few items that you had. How do I update the Merlin app? So I'm going to go back here. One of the ways, so it depends on your phone type. And this is the other thing that I should have mentioned at the top, is that I'm working from an Android phone. Some of you may be working from an iPhone, and sometimes things look a little bit different. Pat and Tom are helping me stay on top of that if there is a big, huge difference in them. But for the most part, they're pretty much the same. If you need to update an app, you need to go into your own app management system for your phone and tap on the app and do the update that way. All right, Ken says, why do you need both US Northeast and US Canada Continental? Wouldn't Northeast be a subset of US and Canada? Yes, and so here's what's really interesting. So this reminds me of when I started birding and somebody gave me the Field Guide to Birds of North America by National Geographic. And I was a beginning birder, and it was overwhelming to look at all the birds from everywhere all across North America. It was too much. And so when I started using Merlin, it was the same sort of thing. I wanted to focus on birds in the Northeast. So that was the pack that I downloaded first. And then I downloaded the US and Canada Continental one after that. So it's kind of like having Sibley's Guide to Birds of the East versus Sibley's Guide to Birds of the West. And the other thing that you can do within the app is you can turn those on and off. So you can say, this is the bird list that I want to work from. And I'll try to show you that. I'll try to remember to show you that. There's a lot here, right? Even in preparing for this tonight, I thought I knew most of the features of Merlin. And as I started playing around with things, don't be afraid to play around. You'll find other little gems here and there. Okay, thanks. Great job putting questions in the chat. This is what we want as we walk through this together and learn together. All right, so the next thing, so I just did bird packs and settings. The next thing I'm going to go to is life list. And so you'll see life list 240. Okay, that's my life list because this is tied into my eBird account. I should actually say it's not really my life list. It's my list of birds that I've entered into eBird. That might be a better way to put it for me because I'm not as diligent in eBirder as I used to be. So I may be missing some species here and there. But this is a great way to kind of attach. You can sign in and attach your eBird account to Merlin, and it will give you your life list. And so this is mine so far, what I've got that eBird has kept track of for me over the years of using it. And those two things are synced together. And you'll see when we look and we start identifying birds, you'll see that there's a little feature that shows you when you've already seen a bird. So different birds that come up, there's like a little blue check mark next to them. It's pretty cool. Okay, Ken, this is the part. Okay, so if you look over here in the upper right corner, we have a couple of things. We have a search bar, right? So I could type in here and I could say, do I have indigo? Oh, I do have indigo bunting on my life list. So you can check in and see which birds you have and which ones you may not have. Let's put pink-footed goose because I don't think I have a pink. Yeah, see, I don't have a pink-footed goose yet. All right, I got to get on that. So you could also figure out which birds you may not have. So that's the search, that little magnifying glass piece. Now we've got another set of bars that are a set of 3 bars that are kind of angled. We can kind of sort, sorry, Ken, I thought this was the thing where I could figure out by different pack which birds were which. It's not, it's on another screen. So this is actually ways to sort the birds on your list from the newest first or the oldest first or by family of birds. So let's just do newest first. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Reddy Shelduck was my last life bird that I had. Awesome. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay, Tom, do we have any questions? I'm seeing the chat too.
Yeah, we don't really have any questions.
Great.
And what I would remind people is if you look down at the chat, you'll see a 2 and a green and a blue bar. You should be checking Green Mountain Audubon Society so that I see the questions, as opposed to checking Bridget so that she sees the questions. She may see the questions, but it helps if you do the Green Mountain Audubon Society so that we can monitor them better.
There we go. Thanks, Tom. Okay, we're gonna keep going because like this is just the beginning. Jeez. Okay. All right. Let's go back. Sorry, I just kicked us out of that screen. So we just did bird packs, settings, and life list. Here we have a help function as well, right? So if you need help with different features or things, this is going to take you back to the same kind of information that's on the website. I want to get back to that main menu, so I'm going to go up in that upper left corner again. Other cool stuff on this, all of these other things we can access from the home page, the Start Bird ID, the Photo ID, Sound ID, and Explore Birds. We can access all of those from the home page when you open the app. The other one that you can find in here that is fun is that your sound recordings will be saved. And what's really great is you can then go back through them and you can pull different things out. You can import sound as well. So if you look at the bottom of this screen, at the bottom, there is an import in green. And if you tap that, you'll be able to upload audio that you may have taken with your voice recorder. Maybe you couldn't open Merlin quick enough and get to the Sound ID button, or you've recorded things in the past and you want to import them to the Merlin app, you can do that as well. And in this spot here is that magic microphone for recording. That's at the bottom. I'm not going to touch that yet because remember I told you we're going to do sound at the end. But these are, yep.
Sorry, I'm going to jump in. We do have a question, and I think it's kind of germane to what we're talking about, sound and visuals. I think what the person is asking is related to the life list that you showed.
Mm-hmm.
She says, do you count sounds or just visuals? And, we can talk about that later. It's up to you.
I can answer that quick. That's personal preference, right? When we do field work, different field work assignments say that you have to see the bird or you can just hear it. This is your own personal list, right? And so you can keep it either way that you like. Some birders like to only count birds if they've both seen and heard them. Some birders love to just bird by ear. Some birders are blind, right? So you may not be able to see the bird, but you're a great birder by ear. You still get to use eBird in that way. So your life list can really be what you want it to be. It's funny, in my house, my son, for our analog list that we keep for our backyard, he wants to make sure that we keep track of both the male and the female birds that we see when we see them. And so he doesn't like to count the bird as seen, that species as seen, until we've seen both the male and female for the year. So total personal preference. It's up to you. Okay. Here we go. We're going back. So we've got that nice little back arrow in the upper left corner again to get us out of this. All right. Now this is where it gets really good. Okay. We're going to work off the home screen there. We just finished those 3 little bars in the top, which give you that beautiful menu. Please ignore the little gray box way down at the bottom on the left-hand side that you can see. That's actually the Zoom button that allows me to share and have audio. So that is, you're not going to find that on your screen when you open the app. All right, here we go. This is what we're going to do first. We are not going to start with that big green button at the top, the Start Bird ID. We're going to go to Explore Birds. That's the one at the bottom. I'll go back really quick because I feel like I did that fast. So all the way at the bottom, Explore Birds is like your field guide, okay? And say you saw, we could do indigo bunting again. We've got snow goose right at the top. Let's do that as an example. So we saw a snow goose right here. We can see from this, that little blue check mark in the circle. That means this bird is on my life list, that I have seen it before. Brant is there as well, okay? So that gives us an idea. Ken Copenhaver, here it is. This is the other reason why I like having different bird packs that kind of create different subgroups of birds. It's a different shaped little set of bars in the upper right corner, right? I can sort this by the different bird packs. So if I really want to hone in and I want to say, I'm in the Northeast right now, I want to explore just birds in the Northeast, I can tap that. If I want everybody, I can do the expansion pack, which is going to give me absolutely everything, including vagrants and all kinds of things that can show up, like that stellar sea eagle or something like that. That's what that set of buttons does in that upper right corner, set of bars, I should say. Okay, we have a search feature here too. You probably know how to use that. And then we have the menu again. The other cool thing that I love about this is if you look down the right-hand side, we have all these little green silhouettes. That's not decorative. That is grouping birds by family, right? So we have waterfowl at the top, and then we have shorebirds and wading birds. We've got raptors in there, hummingbirds. So here we are categorizing birds down to smaller little subsets to make it easier for us to find what we'd like to find. And this is really cool. So if I tap on this one, I'm going to tap on the warblers, and I'm holding it right now. So it comes up and it says wood warblers. I'm going to let it go. And then I've got a list of all of the US and Canada possibilities for wood warblers. I'm going to change this. We're going to go back to US Northeast and get that list. There we go. And then we'll do wood warblers again. All right, super. Here's the other great thing about exploring birds. So say I was like, ooh, warblers, I'm going to find my warblers in here. Now I can tap on the species. I just tapped ovenbird at the top there. And this is like getting into a field guide. It's going to give you some information about the bird. This is the ID info on the landing page for that bird. Okay, just a short paragraph. It gives you some background. You can scroll through pictures as well. I love this because with some species, there are plumages that are different, right? So we have immature plumages, we have female plumages, we have male plumages, and this ovenbird, man, they all look the same. That's great. All right. If you look at the top in that nice little gray band there below the word ovenbird, the next thing that we can explore are sounds. And I'm just going to double check and make sure that I have my audio on, and I do. Okay. And so this is where we get to kind of look and listen at the same time. This is one of the things I absolutely love. So when I tap this song, green circle with a white triangle in it, the song's going to play, and it's going to come up with a spectrogram. Now, the spectrogram gives us a visual to what we're hearing. And for some of us who are visual learners, this can be a game changer. Now, it's going to give you a bunch of different variations on song, and some birds have very specific variations that they switch back and forth between. So we see two songs here. There's a flight song. We have chip calls that ovenbirds use, tank calls and flight calls, right? So songs tend to be longer and more melodic. They're the vocalizations that birds use to establish territory. I should say songbirds use to establish territory and to attract and connect with a mate. Calls are things that are used for things like staying in touch with one another, to alarm, to say I'm hungry when you have babies, right? And then there are calls that are made when they're in flight. This bird, ovenbird, has both a flight song and a flight call. So you can have a lot of fun kind of playing around with different songs and vocalizations from birds that you're interested in learning a little bit more about.
Bridget, I'm going to jump in. If any of our, this is kind of interesting. You may not know this, everyone. If you are a snowbird and you are spending part of the year in Florida, as the birds continue their migration out of South America and Central America, they come through Florida. Here is something I was very surprised. I spent 8 winters in Florida as part of my retirement. The birders in Sarasota have never heard the warblers sing their songs that you see the top 2 choices here. As a matter of fact, the warblers coming through only make those sounds more or less on their breeding territory, which is where we are. So they identify all their warblers through chip calls. I was simply astounded that they could be identifying the warblers simply from the chips. And one of my friends, who was one of the best birders there, heard a northern water thrush do an 8-bar song, and I thought it was going to fall down. He says, in 20 years, I've never heard this bird sing. But just those of you who are, and somebody just put in the chat, we hear very few warbler songs in Texas either. The chips are sometimes very helpful.
Yeah. So we got both, right? Both of those. So let's look at, just do chip. Oops, no, did I do? No, I did chip. This is where I think when you're trying to learn chip calls, I think the visual piece can really come into play here. You can kind of hear that 2 parts to the chip call for ovenbirds. The warbler guide is really great with this, and they explain a lot about how to read spectrograms as well. That's a whole other class. We won't go into that tonight for sure. All right, let's move on. So we did, let me just make sure, with Explore Birds, we can play around with families. We can see which birds are on our life list, and we can access birds right away and get at the core information for the, oh, I forgot the other important piece that's super helpful, the map, right? Yep. So there are maps in here that are from Birds of the World. And so this is really important too when you're thinking about who's here in the wintertime, who is moving through, who's breeding to the north of us and is not going to stay here. So the maps can really come in handy. Okay.
I think, Bridget, I really want to highlight this. What you said was one of the best terms I've heard for the apps, because people just think, oh, it's technology. But you use the term digital field guide. And I think that's the way we want people to think of these apps. They are really digital field guides.
Yeah, it's another resource. It's another tool. You know, I still carry a giant Sibley guide around with me on outings, because that's what I'm comfortable like laying out and showing and sharing to people. It's all about your personal preference, and that's fine, right? Like there's no one resource that is the best to use for everybody, because we all learn in different ways. So it's totally cool to embrace the digital field guide. Okay, let's move on because we got a lot to cover. Okay, we're going back to the home screen. So I'm just going to tap. Everybody's got different ways to go back on their phone. Mine is this little caret at the bottom on the right. So I'm going to go back to my home page there. And this time we are going to go to photo ID next. I know I'm saving all the good stuff for last. Start bird ID and the sound ID we're going to do last. So photo ID is another great feature that I don't use much, but I had a lot of fun playing with today. I'm going to show you. So there's a couple ways that you can use it. You can take a photo right from your phone. If you're super fancy pants and you have a pair of those Swarovski, it's like a digital pair of binoculars that you can take photos with, and then it can talk to your phone. I mean, there's a way that you can link those two together. So you can be looking through your binoculars, snap a photo and send it to Merlin and it'll ID it for you. I don't have that. I don't even have a camera. So the way that I like to use it is I like choose a photo. So you can, this big green picture button in the middle, you can tap on that. It will take you to your camera for your phone. It will say, make sure, right? This is what it's going to say. For best results, use a photo of the bird unobstructed by vegetation or by other birds. Merlin will always suggest a possible ID, but if a person can't see the bird in the photo well enough to tell what it is, it's unlikely that Merlin can either. All right, so, and if you want to learn more about why that is, you can tap learn more and you'll be all set with that. Okay, the thing that I like to do, we're going to go back because I'm not going to take a picture because I don't have a bird around right now. We're going to use choose a photo. So you may have already taken a photo, or you can put a photo on your phone. Maybe a friend sent you a photo. Okay, we're going right from my gallery, and this, I'm going to go to a friend sent me. Let me find okay, this one, a friend sent me this one, okay? And we can stretch this bird out. So I'm just using both of my fingers to kind of make sure that this bird is framed nicely within that black square, right? And then I'm gonna hit next. And Merlin's going to ask me, do you have a location? Because that is very, very helpful in figuring out what species it could be. And they're going to ask for a date because time of year is important as well. The more information that you're able to put in with your photo or within any of the features on here, then the more accurate Merlin can be. I don't know exactly when this was taken because it was sent to me by a friend. I don't even know the date because sometimes people send me photos that are just like, what is this bird? And now I don't have to do all the work of trying to figure it out myself. I can upload the photo into Merlin, and Merlin's going to spit out the best matches. See at the top, that says best matches. Best matches based on the information that Merlin has. And Merlin uses its own maps and its own information, but it also uses information from eBird. So that's why location can be really important, because they're going to check into what's being seen locally, and they're going to spit out the birds that are the best matches based on the information that they have and the information that comes into eBird. So those two apps kind of talk to each other. So here we go.
I got to break in because there's a comment here and I have read it 4 times and I'm scratching my head. So I'm just going to say it and see if it makes sense to you.
Okay.
It says, if you take photos with your better camera, you can take a photo of the back of your camera and use it in Merlin.
Yes.
I don't understand.
Okay, so that's right. So on the back of your camera, you have that little screen where you can like preview the image that you've just taken. And if you have your cell phone in your pocket, you can pull that out. Wow, that's amazing, right? So that's pretty cool that you're able to do that. So here's a bunch of different options, right, of what it could be. It could be a white-tailed eagle. It's probably not, because, right, of course, I didn't put in location, right? So it's just going to put anything in there that could possibly be a match. So we're getting a lot of really, so African fish eagle is not a bird pack that I have. I don't have the African birds in my app. I have not downloaded that pack, so that one's not showing up. But we know that that was an eagle, and we can look at this. You can see in the upper right corner, this one's on my life list already. We've got a little bit of a description. If I tap those words, it's going to give me a fuller description. right? I'm going back to that same kind of screen that we saw with Explore Birds. All right, I'm gonna go back. We can listen, so that little kind of, I don't know, what would we call that? It's like a speaker, right? Down on the left next to the big block that says, "This is my bird," that we can, there we go. We can hear bald eagle. Ooh, and you'll be like, yes, it was doing that too. Great. Okay. Information. I'm not sure what that means. Oh no, it's going to give you all of the information about the bird. There, it just clicked us back to that. And then if you hit "This is my bird," it's going to ask you this question. When you identify a bird, you can choose to report it on an eBird checklist. Use eBird if you want to keep a complete list of all your sightings that will appear on recent visits, hotspots, and species maps. You can change this later in settings. So right now, my settings are for Merlin, so I would tap Save with Merlin, but it's gonna ask you unless you hit that little toggle at the bottom that says "Remember my choice." And so from then on, when you hit "This is my bird," it's either gonna save it to the app for you, or it's gonna create an eBird report for you. Most of the time, I don't even do that. I'm just like, yay, that's what it is. Okay, one fun thing with this, because I think this is kind of funny that you can do this. I'm gonna go back. Let me hit Sound ID. Oh, no, we're not going there yet, Bridget. Okay, Photo ID again. We're gonna choose a photo. Look at this. Did you know it's 30 days until the biggest week in American birding? I'm gonna be there speaking. And hopefully I'm going to get to see this bird, and I want to remember what this bird is. This is a little screenshot that I took from Instagram because I just wanted to see if it would work. I'm going to frame the bird really nice, and I'm going to go for it and see what happens here. I'm not even going to put a place or a time or anything, and bam, Black Burnian warbler. Good stuff. So you can have a lot of fun with this, right? There's a bird in a magazine that you see. You could take a photo of it and see if Merlin can identify it. Okay. Any questions, Tom? Checking in before I move on to the next fabulous feature.
You're good to go.
Okay. What should we do next? I think we should start a bird ID. I love this. I love that Merlin, that Cornell put this whole set of steps together the way that they did, because I think it's kind of like a roadmap to the way that we can be better noticers, that we can notice birds in a deeper way, that we can pay more attention. So what's great about starting a bird ID is they're going to ask you 5 questions when you tap that button. So let's say you see something in your yard over the next couple of weeks. It's going to be great because you could have a new bird every day as we enter migration. So the first question is about location. And this is something that we all should keep in mind as birders, is the very first thing that can help us figure out who's who when we meet them on the landscape is, where am I? Where am I located? And there's 3 different ways that you can enter things in here. You can search by city or zip code. You can use your map, your phone's GPS will talk to the Merlin app, and you can hit current location, and that will put you on a map, and you can say, yes, that's where I am. And then there's this other one that is select from a map as well. Once you start to do this, you're going to generate a list of places. So you can see below all of that, there are all these different places that are part of kind of my backstory about where I've seen different birds and locations that I've used before. So we're just going to use, let's see, we could do current location. So it's going to bounce me right to the next screen. So I'm going to go back just so you can see that again. Current location was the second option. That's the one I picked. And it talked to my phone. It took that location. So I'm going to get latitude and longitude for this site, which you can see on my list down there, down below. The other way that I can do this is select from a map, zoom, and now you all get to see where I live. I'm right there on Quinton Court, and there's a brook near my house. So I could be like, yeah, that's where I want to go. And I'm going to use that location. So that's another great way to do this. or I can pick something off of the list that I have below here that I've already generated. So I'm going to do current location. It's going to ask you the date, right? Date's really important. Right now, we are just at the beginning of migration, so certain things are arriving back on the landscape here. It would be very different if it was February, right? So we want to make sure that we put as accurate a date as we possibly can. So we're going to say today. I'm going to go to next. I love this. Okay, so date, place, your location, and then how big is the bird? And here we have this great kind of visual that helps us use other birds as measuring sticks. So we kind of have sparrow size, right? I think that's, it's not going to highlight. Okay, I tried to tap the circle and hold it to see if it would say sparrow size. So we have sparrow size, then the next bird up is like robin or thrush size. Then we have crow, and then we have goose. This is an awesome way to describe birds that you're seeing. And when we do this together as birders, we're doing a better job of kind of sharing observations and helping us build a visual impression of what we're seeing, right? And this sticks in our subconscious. So then when we look at a bird, it's almost like our brain just takes over and goes, okay, I'm going to size that bird up based on crow. I know crow really well, so it's smaller than a crow. And then we can say robin, is it bigger or smaller than robin, right? So I love this feature for just that reason. So let's say I'm going to put something, let's just go right in the middle. It's between a robin and a crow. Okay. Next. All right, I'm just going to make something up. This is fun. So here we're not too focused on what were the field marks and all of that. This is where we get a general impression. Again, what's your general impression of size and your general impression of color? So we're going to pick 3. You don't have to pick 3. Maybe it was just 2. Maybe there was just 1 that really stood out to you. That's okay too. If you can get at least, I think like 2 is really good. 3 is great. And once we get into 4 and 5, that's probably too much. So that's why they keep it really simple here. So I'm going to do, let's see, I did this earlier today. I did yellow and white and gray. All right, let's see what happens. I'm going to hit next. Da, 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 da. And now this is the next piece that I love. This is the next part of the roadmap. So we did size, the general impression of size, general impression of color, and now we're focused on behaviors. Was the bird eating at a feeder? Was it swimming or waiting? Was it on the ground? Was it in trees or bushes? Was it on a fence or a wire? Was it soaring or flying? This is brilliant, right? This is another way to categorize birds that we are seeing, right? And we can think of different subsets of birds. If you think of that one, birds on a fence or a wire, right? I can think of, who did I see the other day? I saw turkey vultures on a fence post. I saw a kestrel on a wire. I see swallows on wires. Like name all the birds that you could see on wires, right? That's a subset, and that's what we're trying to get at here. So I'm going to do that one. I'm going to put bird on a fence or a wire. And now look at what happened to the green button at the bottom. It's not next anymore. It's identify. So now we're going to tap that. And it's giving me some possibilities, right? So here we have ring-billed gull as a possibility. Could I see a ring-billed gull around here on a fence or a wire? Or like a lamppost downtown in St. Albans? Yeah, probably. Yep. See, kestrel. That was another one. And I picked gray, yellow, and white again. Okay. And my size was in between a crow and a robin. There's Merlin. Gosh, we have Merlin. I haven't heard the Merlin back in St. Albans City yet. And we have northern flicker, right? Sometimes you do get bummer birds that you're just like, that is not it. That is not possible at all. And part of what we need to do as birders is not just use one resource, but use another one, right? So we can check this against other things like our field guides, like our other friends who are birders. What's possible? Maybe you're out together with somebody else and you're using this and you're like, what do you think is possible here? So sometimes eBird, comes up with some bummers that probably aren't a good match. Maybe it's not a bird that's even in that area, right? So the more specific that we can be and in terms of sharing and noticing, right, we can start to train ourselves to notice in this way, the more accurate eBird or Merlin will be for us.
We have a question.
Good. I was just going to say it, Tom. How did you know? All right.
35 years of teaching. Hello. So the question is Merlin linked to iNaturalist? It is linked to eBird.
No, those are two separate projects. So it's not linked in the same way, but iNaturalist is another, that's another app that you can use in the same way. I'd be curious about the richness of the data in iNaturalist in terms of birds. That makes me really curious. But it is another great app that you can use to help identify birds and insects and plants and all of that. But Merlin does not talk to iNaturalist the way that it talks to eBird. Great question. Any other ones, Tom?
Nope.
Okay, drum roll. It is time for the one that everybody's been waiting for forever, right? It's Shazam for birds. I'm sure you all, like before this app came out, were like, if only there was an app that I could just hold up and it would tell me what I was hearing, that would be great. And here we are at that day and time and that place where it is possible. So I'm totally blown away by this because I think birding by ear is one of the harder things to become good at. I don't think it's impossible, but I think it's really, it's hard, right? It takes some time and some effort, some perseverance, and then winter comes and everybody goes away and you forget it all, and then you've got to learn it all again. I still have to fine tune my ear every year to the soundscape, and I actually take joy in it now instead of being frustrated by it. It's like a treat to kind of come back into that season of that cacophony of sound. And now we have this app that helps us do this. And what I love about the sound ID part is this is something that captures a lot of people's attention and at times can be a barrier to people enjoying birds, right? They want to know, but it takes time to get to know these vocalizations. And so this app is kind of breaking down some of those barriers. Again, is it perfect? Nope, it's not perfect. It's going to get better as the technology gets better. And as our recordings get better, we record things, we contribute them to eBird. They become a part of the knowledge base that these apps can use. So this is another reason why it's really good to use eBird and contribute to the collective knowledge that then gets passed on to new birders and beginning birders. Really super amazing. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to check in on is we're going to look at this bottom button that says supported birds. So I'm going to tap that. So these are all the bird sounds that are supported based on the bird packs that I have downloaded. So I have 1,054 bird species and their vocalizations, maybe not all of them, right? But at least one, right? Whether it's a song or a call, is part of the sound ID list that is here on the phone. So that's good. I don't use that much, right? But it's really cool to kind of check that out. There's a button there for your sound recordings. Again, it's another way to access recordings that you've already made. And then there's the actual recording button, the microphone. So see the prompt at the top? It says, get as close to the bird as you can. Hold your body still. So you want to find a good stance so that you're not moving and shifting in your gear, right? That you are shielded from the wind. So get the wind hitting your back, kind of make a shield for where you're going to be holding the phone toward the bird and get as close as you can and then press record. All right, we're going to do this. And I'm going to open my window and we're going to see Oh my gosh, the sunset is amazing. All right, we're gonna tap the microphone and I'm gonna hold it out the window and we're gonna see what we're gonna get. Now, what you're gonna see on the screen is it's gonna say, listening for birds. There's gonna be like a cute little picture at the bottom. And then at the top is the spectrogram recording the sound as it's happening. Here we go. Okay, the spectrogram's running. You're gonna hear my voice now. See my voice pop up on there? I don't hear anybody outside except my neighbors. I'm gonna stop talking. We'll see if we can pick up maybe a robin at the end of the day. And it's not picking up on anything. So we'll have some fun. Okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm going to cover my microphone and I'm going to do a bird sound that many of you maybe have heard me do before. Okay, crushing it tonight. There we go. So this is kind of what Merlin does. And if the bird vocalizes again, watch, I'll see if I can get it to do it. It will highlight that bird again while it is vocalizing. Here we go. So it told me again that barred owl was vocalizing. I'm going to shut my window here because it's a little chilly. And then I'm going to hit stop. Okay, so it's grabbed my recording. This is the report that you get afterwards. So you see barred owl on there, and then it gives you the different vocalizations for that species, right? There's my best match. This weird little set of dots, like 3 sets of dots on a greater than, is that a less than side? That's a less than sign. I don't know. I don't remember my math. It's shaped like this with 3 dots on it near the play button. So if I tap the circle with the triangle in it, it's going to play my recording back. That other feature is to share it. So if I tap that little triangle with the 3 dots on it, I can share it with anybody that's on my, my texting list. I could put it in an email. I can download the WAV file and save it on my phone. So that's that feature. Let's see, what else are we missing? Oh, so now next to barred owl, you see that there's a blue check, right? A check mark in a blue circle. And then you see an orange circle. And I don't think I can tap on that. So help me out here, eBird people. This means, this is a symbol that's common within eBird. If it was red, it would mean that it is rare or unique to the site. And this one is uncommon, right?
Infrequent or just arriving. So
there we go.
We will see that on many, many of the newly arrived migratory birds.
Yes. Okay. And so infrequent, based on my site, like I'm in St. Albans City, that's barred owls aren't common in the city because there aren't a lot of reports in them too, right? So that little circle information also comes from the data that we contribute to eBird as well. So just another way to read that info. So this is
sorry, I just got corrected by somebody. So I will read it. They said orange is infrequent. Red dot means not reported on eBird. If it's rare, it'll say that in addition. So thank you for that clarification.
That's awesome. I will have that down by next week. It's been a while since I paid attention to those circles. Okay, here we go. What else? Any other questions popping up?
Nope.
Okay. This is the other great thing about being able to play back your own pieces. I can scroll through this spectrogram and get, this was me talking. Let's see if we can find where well, maybe that was me doing the owl thing. Let's play it. Yep. And I think it's doubling because of my microphone. Yeah. So you can play back whatever you've recorded. You can have it stop in those different areas. I think the red line is just brilliant because it draws your eye to those different parts of the spectrogram as well. So Sound ID is a big game changer. And it's really delightful to sit out and look, sit in the morning and have it running for like a minute or two. It can go for a number of minutes. It'll put up a message that's like, do you still want to keep recording because you've been recording for a while? So it'll key in on that, and it can give you a big list. Let me show you. I just want to show you. Yeah. So here are all of my sound recordings. I'm going to scroll down. Let's do this one because this was from October. That was what was going on in my backyard one day. And it all started because of the evening grosbeaks. And so I made this recording, and it picked up on all of these birds. And it was really fun to sit there and watch the little, the names flash in yellow as each of the birds were vocalizing. So it's another great way to kind of train your ear in the moment. You can watch the app and you can watch those different names highlight, and you could be like, okay, that's that, that's this, right? And you can make that connection between what you're hearing in the moment with help from this app. Pretty amazing.
We have a comment that I think is germane.
Super.
One attendee says, it is useful to have your location activated in order to use Sound ID.
Yes, right. So this goes back again to the fact that Merlin is talking to eBird, and eBird, right, that one of those core pieces of understanding who is possible on the landscape is knowing where you are on the landscape. And so you need to have that feature turned on your phone so that geolocation stuff can work and it can pick up where you are. It doesn't ask you that question in this because it's directly tapping into your phone in order to understand where you are on the landscape in that moment recording birds. Super, thanks for bringing that up. Okay, I'm a little bit over in my hour of time, but we did it. We got through the whole app together. I'm sure there's other little cool things that you can learn how to do with this app and add more richness to your experience when you're out there this spring. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we'll just open it up for questions. If anybody has any final questions, or if you have any comments and you're like, this is how I use it. This is what I think is really cool. This is what's been helpful to me. Please feel free to share those in the chat as well. And you can put those, you can put those to everyone. Yeah.
And I think that was fabulous. I think we're going to get some comments. While we're waiting, how about telling us a little preview of how next week's presentation is going to be different?
Yeah, it's also gonna be the same, right? So we're gonna do the same sort of thing. I'm gonna try to spend a little bit more time from the desktop, right? Kind of looking at when you sit down at your computer or your laptop, what does eBird look like? But I also want to spend the most time within the app and try to get you set for being out on the land this spring and starting to use eBird as a way to document what you're seeing when you're out and about. So it'll be very similar. Feel free to download the app if you haven't already, get that on your phone. Maybe think of some of those things that you've struggled with. And if you're attending, please know that your knowledge is really valuable as well, right? We're really good at using the chat to be able to share what we're experiencing, and we can learn from each other because there's so much that these apps can do, especially the eBird app and eBird just in general. That it's hard to cover it all and it's hard to remember all the really great functions of it. But we're going to do a little bit on the computer and most of it is going to be on the app so that you're ready to be in the field.
And now that you have come to almost the end, it's useful to remind everybody that, as Bridget said at the beginning, this Zoom program is being recorded. It will not be available in 24 hours. In that we have to edit it, but once edited, it will be put up on the Green Mountain Audubon YouTube location, which you can get to from our greenmountainaudubon.org. And then you'll be able to not only view it again, but if somebody else is interested in learning, because I think it was a spectacularly useful way to be introduced to the app, then they will also be able to see that. So Bridget, it is 7:42. I'm sorry that we didn't hear any owls outside your window.
Just inside.
I will vouch for the fact that when we practiced it earlier, there were 2 birds outside your window.
There were.
On behalf of the rest of the board, our board, the Green Mountain Audubon Society, to everyone, I wish a wonderful evening. Get out and bird. Different birds are arriving every day. And Bridget, we will look forward to your presentation next week. And we wish you all a good night. Now the questions are coming. Here we go.
Awesome.
All right.
Tom, can I pause for a minute? Because I got one privately, and I kind of want to address this. So someone has asked to mention to not depend on using Merlin alone for a bird identification to report to eBird. Right. And the reason why they're thinking this is because sometimes Merlin makes mistakes. What I want to encourage all of us to do is to recognize that Cornell has made that function available within the app for a reason. And they have safeguards in place to help kind of troubleshoot when there are birds that might be reported that aren't accurate, right? And as a beginner birder, it's not possible always to know what is an accurate match and what is not. And what we want people to do is to be comfortable using the app. And so we have things in place to help with that. We have eBird itself does a good job of having algorithms that help look at that. And we have eBird reviewers as well who do that work. I think we need to be a little bit gentler within and through the entire birding community. As beginners and novices come into birding, they want to feel like they belong. They want to feel like they can be able to use the tools that are available to them. And so eBird and Cornell wouldn't have created the app in this way to connect the Merlin best matches to eBird if they didn't think they had the right kind of safeguards in place when those matches weren't perfect. Just something to think about. Tom, you got some other questions there?
I don't, but what I do want to remind everybody is that the Green Mountain Audubon Society also does some in the real world excursions and gets outside. So you can see our schedule for those on our Green Mountain Audubon Society website. So, whether you are going out and trying Merlin in your backyard or you're going to be participating in a more organized event that we host, I love Merlin. I just used it in Ecuador and it was fabulous.
Super. All right. I think we're good, Tom. We did our work. Yes.
It worked beautifully. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone. Spring is almost here. Go out and enjoy, and we wish you all a good evening. Good night, everyone.